Blood shimmered beneath the trauma bed like a reflection of chaos. The monitors screamed in electric rhythm, the kind of sound that made even seasoned doctors forget to breathe. Nurse Ava Morales pulled back the blanket to check for wounds and froze. There, inked over the stranger's heart, was a moth with thin, veined wings. Beneath it, to small numbers coordinates, her pulse stopped. The chart slipped from her hand, crashing onto the tiles, papers scattered like feathers. She knew that moth. She knew those coordinates. Because she had drawn them herself, 10 years ago, on a napkin under the yellow light of a bar with a man she loved and buried. Gabriel. Her mouth went dry. Her body remembered what her mind refused to accept. The smell of rain, the sound of glass shattering. The call that ended everything. "Pressure's dropping," shouted Dr. Jude Hahn from across the table. Ava blinked hard, forcing her hands to move. 80/50, starting fluids. "Stay with me, Morales," Jude said. His voice was calm but his eyes searched hers. "We don't have time for ghosts." Ghosts. That's exactly what this felt like. She leaned over the patient, his chest slick with antiseptic, the tattoo half covered in light. His face was pale, jaw stubbled, lips cracked, but the shape of him, God, it was familiar. Her fingers trembled as she secured the IV line, her own reflection shaking in the steel tray. An identified male, the charge nurse, Priya, called out. Found unconscious in a car outside the station. No ID, no wallet. Ava swallowed the rising storm inside her. "Get me cardiac pads," she ordered. "And oxygen now." Her voice sounded professional, but inside, she was drowning. Every beep of the monitor felt like a heartbeat that didn't belong to him and yet did. She leaned closer to check the line placement, and that's when she heard it. A sound faint, broken, impossible. The man's lips moved. Just one word, almost swallowed by the hum of machines. "Ava." She froze. The world around her blurred, the lights, the noise, the people. All that existed was that voice, rising from a body that shouldn't have known her name. "Ava," Priya whispered. "What did he just?" But Ava didn't answer. She stood there, motionless, one hand still pressed over his pulse. Her heart hammered in her ears. "Let's move," Jude shouted. "He's crashing." Defibrillator pads slapped against his chest. A jolt of light burst across the room. Ava jumped, her breath catching like a sob. The monitor flatlined, then spiked. 1 beat, 2, 3. He came back. The man's chest rose again, shallow but steady. The tattoo glistened under the harsh light, the moth looking as though it were about to lift off his skin. Jude exhaled. "We've got him. Let's get imaging ready." Ava stepped back, her hands shaking, her chart still lying on the floor beside her shoes. She stared at the man's face, the stranger who wasn't a stranger at all, and whispered to herself, "It can't be you." But her voice cracked on the last word, betraying the smallest, most dangerous part of her heart, the part that still believed in miracles. The ICU was a cathedral of machines. Soft blue light pulsed against white walls, and the air hummed with quiet vigilance. Nurse Ava Morales hadn't gone home. She couldn't. She sat beside the man who had nearly died twice in one night, the man who shouldn't even exist. He looked peaceful now, asleep beneath warm blankets, tubes trailing like roots of another life. The moth tattoo peeked from under the gauze, its wings still. Ava watched it move with every slow rise of his chest, as if it were breathing for him. Priya entered quietly, setting down a clipboard. "You know you're off shift, right?" Ava didn't look up. "He said my name, Priya." Her friend paused. "You mean, by coincidence?" Ava's voice cracked. "No." He said it like someone who knew it, like someone who'd said it 1,000 times. Priya took a slow breath. "You think it's Gabriel?" Ava's eyes flickered toward the bed. "I think I don't know what's real anymore." Hours passed. The city outside woke, roared, and forgot them. Inside, time didn't move, it circled. When the man stirred at noon, Ava's breath caught like a skipped heartbeat. His eyelids fluttered. The machines reacted, first heart rate up, blood pressure steadying. Ava leaned forward, barely breathing. "Hey, ... You're okay. You're safe." His gaze was unfocused, as though searching for the shape of a memory. Then his lips moved, rough from the tube. "You kept the light," he whispered. Ava froze, her throat tightened so fast it hurt. That was Gabriel's last line, the last thing he ever said before the crash. She stepped back, dizzy. "Who told you to say that?" He blinked slowly. "No one. You were there. You were crying." Her hands shook. "Gabriel died 10 years ago." He smiled faintly, and the expression was too familiar, too precise. Then maybe I'm someone who borrowed his story. Later, when Dr. Jude Han entered the room, Ava stood motionless beside the bed. Jude's gaze softened when he saw her. He's stable. Whatever happened before, it's not over yet. Ava turned to him, eyes hollow. What if I'm losing it? You're not, Jude said gently. You're remembering. That's different. But the truth pressed against her ribs like a heartbeat she couldn't silence. If he was really Gabriel, then what had she buried? When evening came, the ICU quieted again. Ava remained by his side as the monitors whispered in green and gold. She leaned forward, voice trembling. Do you remember the coordinates? He opened his eyes again, weak but lucid. You drew them, he murmured. One for where we met. One for where I'd find you again. Tears welled instantly. That was just a dream, Gabriel. No, he said, his voice cracking. It was a promise. Suddenly, his monitor shrieked a warning to familiar. Ava stood, heart slamming. No, no, stay with me. The alarms crescendoed. The line went flat. Code blue, she shouted, slamming the button. Jude burst in with the team. Pads, syringes, chaos. Start compressions. Ava didn't hesitate. She pressed both hands to his chest, counting through tears. 1, 2, 3, come on, Gabriel, please. Charge to 200. Clear. His body jolted. The sound of thunder in a small room. Again. Clear. Nothing. And then a single blip on the screen, then another. He came back. Ava stumbled backward, sobbing silently as the room exhaled. Jude's voice was calm but weary. He's with us, for now. The others left. Machines steadied. Ava remained, staring at his chest as the TAD caught the light again. The moth looked almost alive. And for the first time, she whispered the words she hadn't dared to say since the funeral. Welcome back. The next morning arrived quiet, almost reverent, like the world was holding its breath. Through the ICU blinds, thin beams of sunlight fell across Ava Morales' face. She hadn't slept. Her eyes were swollen, her scrubs wrinkled, but her hands still rested gently over his pulse, as if afraid that letting go might erase him again. He was alive, faintly, impossibly alive. She studied the tattoo once more, tracing the outline beneath the gauze with her thumb. The moth's wings curved delicately, the coordinates small but unmistakable. One marked the cafe where they first met. The other, she realized now with the chill, marked St. Anne's Hospital, the place where she stood. It was never just a memory, it was a map. When Gabriel opened his eyes again, sunlight spilled over him like absolution. He turned his head toward her, smiling weakly. You stayed. Ava nodded. I don't know how to leave. He blinked slowly, words catching on the rise of his chest. I remember headlights. Rain. Then nothing. I thought I was gone. And then someone found me, far south, said I'd been asleep for years. Her breath trembled. That's not possible. He gave a faint, broken laugh. Neither is this. A long silence followed, one so heavy it felt sacred. Machines beeped softly, measuring seconds too fragile to count. Ava finally whispered, I buried you, Gabriel. I watched them lower the casket. I tried to build a life after that. I know, he murmured. I saw it. Her eyes filled with disbelief. You saw it. I don't know how, he said, his voice rasping. But I could see you crying, see you trying to move on. It was like I was standing behind glass watching the life I never got to finish. She turned away, tears slipping down her cheeks. Why now? Why come back after all this time? Because I didn't come back from the crash, he said. I came back through it. Dr. Jude Han entered quietly, checking monitors. He watched them, both the living and the resurrected, and said nothing. He'd seen patients return from cardiac death, but never from memory. After a pause, he murmured, he's stable. But his heart is weak. If we push it, we could lose him again. Ava nodded, voice low. Then we don't push. We let him remember. Jude's gaze softened. You think this is fate? I think, she said, looking back at Gabriel, some people are too unfinished to stay buried. That night, the city trembled under distant thunder. Rain began to fall against the windows, the same rhythm, the same scent, as the night she lost him. Ava sat close to him, her hand over his. Do you remember what you told me back then? He smiled faintly, that if anything happened to me, the moth would know the way home. She leaned forward, tears tracing her jaw. You shouldn't have waited 10 years. His voice was barely a breath. You shouldn't have given up. The heart monitor slowed. A warning tone whispered in the background, low and rhythmic. Gabriel's eyes fluttered closed. His lips moved one last time. Ava. Then silence. Flatline. She pressed her hand to his chest, begging, "No, no, not again please." But the monitors didn't care about love stories. Still, when the team came running, when Jude reached for the paddles, when the world collapsed into light, Ava stayed. Her tears fell onto his skin, one drop landing over the moth, blurring its ink like a wing trembling in flight. The line on the screen flickered once, then again. Jude froze. "He's back," he whispered. Ava exhaled a laugh that was half sob, half prayer. She leaned over him and whispered, "You found your way home." Outside, the storm broke. Inside, the moth on his chest seemed to shimmer under the light. Its wings finally learning how to fly again.